I need to get a pile of lumber off the floor. I've said before my shop's pretty small, so anything I can do to get more room in here is going to be a huge improvement. So I'm going to be making some lumber racks, and I don't really have a huge amount of space anywhere to put them. So there's some room above the windows and some room above the pegboard. Above the pegboard there's only 7.5 inches. Most of the lumber racks I've seen, the bracket is bigger than that, it's taller than that, so I can't really use that. What I'm going to do is use a box joint or finger joint and 2x4s. So it'll be 1.5 inches of space will be taken up by the 2x4. So out of my 7.5 inches above the pegboard, I'll have 6 more inches. And I know that's not a lot, but really I need every bit of space I can to get this lumber up off the floor. So I'll be making that, and we'll see how it goes. I made this box joint jig for a 3/8 inch dado, and this pin is just a tiniest bit smaller than 3/8. And then this is the leftover material that pin was made from. And if you put this in here like that, and then I screwed this onto the miter fence in the right position here. If this is exactly the same width as the dado blade, what happens is your box joints turn out really super tight. You can pound them in, but when you glue them it's going to be so tight it's going to be really super difficult. The answer is this gap is at each tooth that does not get cut. It goes all the way down like this in your piece. If you put that closer to the blade slightly, just by a few thousandths, that's going to make each tooth a little thinner, and it will fit together easier and glue together really nicely then. I'm making, these are for 2x4s, so this is the thickness of a 2x4 up here. This pin isn't that height, but I went ahead and made this pin 3/4 of an inch, so I can use this super easy jig on any material down to 3/4 of an inch. So then I would just get my 2x4 to start, set it in like this, and hold it. Of course, making sure you don't get your fingers down close to the blade when you're holding it. That's one reason too to have a nice tall fence, so that if it was a real short fence you don't want to be holding it down here and accidentally get your fingers over there. So a taller fence, I can hold it up here, keeps my fingers out of the way. Cutting the slots went really easy with the dado blade. I'm probably going to make an Arduino controlled box joint jig just for fun. If you're interested, you might want to subscribe, because that will hopefully be coming up in the next few months. Notice how you start the second board with a different starting point than the first one, so just watch how I did that. I used the first board as a spacer on my pin. And there's what you end up with. If the blade is a little tiny bit too high, these fingers will end up being a little proud. You can either trim that off on the table saw or sand them off on a sander. But that should be a pretty strong joint once I get that glued up. One thing I didn't think of until after I finished the first one was I could use a 2x6 and get more strength out of the joint by just having a wider area for the finger joints to be there. So on the first one I don't have any 2x6s, but on the other two that I made, I stuck, some of them are 2x6s, some of them are 2x4s. So that should give it a little extra holding power. Here's 3 of the brackets I finished up for the first lumber rack. It's going to be 3 brackets and about 4 feet long. Those are 3/8 inch fingers in the box joints. Here it is up on the wall. It's looking good. This one above the window is where I didn't think of the 2x6 idea until after I finished it, but it's holding and it has probably the most weight on it. That's all hard maple stacked up on it. It's a fairly short lumber rack, but I got a lot of wood up there, and it really helps organize the shop better. Here's the one up above the pegboard. It's a long one. I got a few of the 2x6 ones in there. I don't have a lot of wood up there yet though. Here's another short one up above the door. And here's a little bit longer one up above the back wall. That's the one up above the door again. So I got all the wood off the floor, so super nice. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe.